Reporting to the cloud. We are live on Facebook Live, coming to you from Edwardsville Nation with our very own theme song. Well, and we're going to do a special thing today. We're going to call it the Office Wave, starting with our very own Zoe. Give us an Office Wave. And we're going through. There's Greg. Oh, yes. And then there's Josh. And then we'll include Moses. Moses, give us an Office Wave. And then everyone else who's working hard. Look at that Ed Talk. Oh, my God. Woo! Oh, my God. You can just feel the excitement and the energy today from the office. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable as I'm walking towards the conference room because I've been banished because I'm just so loud. Anyways, all right, we got a special episode for you guys today. We're talking about winter idling, something you've never heard of in your entire life ever before as a Swift driver. Here we go. And we got two of our finest. We have Nick Kovacs from Phoenix, who's going to tell us all about winter idling and our top tips and success, and one of our best drivers who's absolutely crushing it in the idling department. He came in last week at just 8%. Lupe here is going to tell us what's up. So thank you very much to both of you for joining us today. Let's get started. Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do for Swift? How do you contribute to this overall Swift family that we got going on?
So right now I'm doing PM scheduling and kind of doing the idle calls as well. So keeping an eye on both of those, making sure the trucks get in for service, making sure they keep their idle down.
Okay.
I've been with Swift for just about 5 years now, done a bunch of jobs. I started in the Phoenix body shop. I went to on-road. I went to the reefer division. I worked for the Walmart division, and now I'm back here.
Were you ever turning wrenches at some point, or were you always in an office setting?
Yeah. In the body shop, I was turning wrenches. I was painting. I was fixing body panels, doing all the stuff. A
real blue collar to white collar type of, thing.
You could say that.
I like it. You could say that. Yeah. Okay, cool. And you were so influential, at least from our Edwardsville team. Linda always talks about you. She thought you were a little bit older than what you like to let you name. There was quite the thing going on. That's Nick. Are you sure? Yeah,
that's
Nick.
Why I hide behind the voice call instead of video.
Yeah. Like no joke. You probably will get some like Valentine's Day card from the ladies here in the office now. Anyways,
I'm all for it.
All for it, yeah. Okay, well, let's get serious. We're here to talk about winter idling. What are your top winter idling tips?
There's a lot of things you can do to bring down the idle this time of year. And in the summer, everyone was up high. Everyone was running their AC, had to run the truck for it to keep cool, right? So this time of year, it's super important that if you have an opti-idle truck, you're putting it in battery saver mode, not in comfort mode. Just put it in battery saver mode, run your bunk heater as much as you can, shut the truck completely off. If your butt's not in the seat, pull the keys out of the ignition, put them in your pocket.
Now, I've heard a lot about these batteries, and Lupe, feel free to chime in if you want to, because Lupe, you're the one that's actually driving the truck. We're just here. We're bench warmers. We're keeping the seat nice and warm. We don't actually drive it. I've heard a lot about these batteries. Do they actually last through the entire night? Like that's one of the top concerns that I hear.
Not always. The thing is that a lot of us make our trucks personal, as close to home as we can get. And a lot of times, a lot of drivers will plug a lot of stuff, whether it's a microwave or a coffee maker or something for their TV or computer. A lot of times, those extra items puts more strain onto the battery, and it does kind of affect the heating of the bunk heaters a lot. And so, as much as the idling rules are concerned, to make a more effective idle, you kind of want to plug only the necessary items. Like most of the times, a lot of people will have like their phone chargers, and they don't take nearly that many amps and doesn't affect the batteries that much. So the fewer the plug-ins, the more chances that the battery will last. But that's easier said than done.
Because there's some high up there Swift bigwigs that are swearing by the batteries are sufficient. Like let's check the batteries out. Let's get some new batteries in there if we have to. They should last the whole night, is what I've been told as a driver leader over and over again. So there you have it from one of Swift's finest, Lupe. Let's and for the drivers out there, it sounds like let's try to unplug as much as possible. Do you got anything that you would like to add to that, Nick? For or just have other Swift, winter idling tips that we might have missed?
Yeah, Lupe is totally right. We need to be managing the house load that we put on the truck, especially when the drivers are going to bed. Don't have everything plugged in. Don't have your microwave, your TV, your Xbox, your everything plugged in when you don't need it. If you unplug everything and you just have your phone plugged in or your laptop plugged in, you're probably not going to have a problem overnight just running your bunk heater. And if you do, and you do have an OptiIdle truck, I know Lupe doesn't, and he's doing a great job without it. I can hardly believe it. But if you have an OptiIdle truck, that's what the battery saver mode is for. So when it starts to sense that the battery juice is low or the voltage is getting down, it'll start the truck up and charge it back up.
Sure. And this is a great point to transition into probably my next question. So you mentioned OptiIdle. And for me as a driver, I hear it all the time. It's like, my idle's high because I don't have an OptiIdle truck. Mm-hmm. But from your guys, what do you think are, and I'll start with Nick first, and then I'll ask you, Lupe, what do you think are the top pain points for drivers with high idle, and how can we help them overcome it?
I would say not having OptiIdle is high up there. We hear it a lot that when we put it out there that the drivers need to be using OptiIdle, drivers that don't have it are usually pretty high on the list. That just puts more accountability on the driver. They need to manage their usage more, their battery usage more, I would say.
Now, Lupe, tell the audience here, do you have an OptiIdle truck? Or do you not have an OptiIdle truck? So you don't have an OptiIdle truck. And your percentage last week was at 8%. And what state are you in currently?
At the present moment, I'm in Wyoming, where last night I had to idle the truck and because the temperature got down to 10 degrees.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I guess to be clear to all the Swift drivers out there, there is a certain point where you have to idle the truck.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it seems, Lupe, that you're figuring out ways without an OptiIdle truck to keep the idle, minimized, right? So what do you think the top pain points are for drivers that have high idle, and how can you help them with your advice achieve greatness?
Well, obviously when you're driving to wherever you got to go to, a customer, truck stop, rest area. First thing you got to do, just shut the truck off. Take care of what needs to be done. Obviously you want to start the truck to drop and hook, but you want to minimize how much engine time you want to put when you're dropping and hooking. That and the fact that when you do get to, again, a truck stop, rest area, someplace to shut down, depending on where you're located, it's best to just shut everything down. And now, of course, granted, there are some exceptions, and I don't have this situation, but there are those that do have a little device called a CPAP, and they do have, I'm not familiar with their situations, but they do have some of those idling, and and some of them have worked on trying to do what they can to make it work. But for the ones that have the high idle, the best thing I can tell them, if you're not moving, just shut it down. And at the same time, be familiar with your situation, where you're located, be familiar with with the temperature, because the temperature is going to determine whether you're going to idle or not. And at the same time, it goes back to the creature comforts of home. You want to, not only do you want to minimize what you have plugged in, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're comfortable in your truck, whether you have extra blankets, extra winter clothing, not to mention food and water to keep you hydrated. But more importantly, you want to stay comfortable and you don't want to stay in a fridge, mind you. But at the same
Mhm.
time, you also want to make sure that the heaters are working properly and that the temperature outside is warm enough that it doesn't, you don't need to idle. And that would be my one of my best advices. But at the same time, you also want to make sure that that truck on occasion does not um, get stuck, where if you try to start the truck and nothing happens, especially, and this will come a little bit later, but you want to make sure that you have something to keep that fuel from gelling up, and you want to make sure you have at least a couple bottles of this anti-gelling solution to put into the fuel tanks. Now, some truck stops, especially in the northern states, they will have that additive in there, so you don't have to worry. But if you're down in Florida or South Texas, uh, they don't have it. So you'll want to make sure that you have that as well.
Okay. You're really good at this. You know that? You kind of have that like radio like face. You got that like vibe going on. Like shoot, man. Like anyways. Um okay, and you mentioned something, Lupe. You mentioned CPAT, right? And you're not a driver who gets to experience what that feels like on the day to day. And if you're a driver that has that situation, I'd just like to invite you, drop a comment. Like, let's help each other out. Like, what do you do if you're keeping your idle on low and you have that type of equipment? What are you doing that is allowing you to do that? So, share the wisdom. Now, the other thing you mentioned, you were up in Wyoming. You did have to idle the truck because it was a certain temperature. Now, we have a policy for when it reaches a certain temperature. Drivers have to run the truck. So let's talk about this, and because this directly impacts the idle percentage. So Nick, do you want to illuminate, some guidelines, the policy or what best practices that we should be following when it comes to temperature and idling?
Yeah, definitely. So I was actually just talking with Linda about this morning. The policy is below 10 degrees. We're going to need to idle the truck. That's just so the fuel doesn't gel. We don't run into those issues where we got to get on road involved, and it's a big mess from there with repairs. That's less than 10 degrees. However, we have tested the bunk heaters to 0 degrees, and it will keep the bunk area at 60. Nice and warm from being 60 degrees outside. So back to OptiIdle. I know I'm harping on this, but back to that. If you're on OptiIdle on battery mode and you're running your bunk heater anywhere down to 10 degrees, you're going to be just fine. Just close the curtains, block up the windows. It's going to keep you nice and toasty.
Okay, cool. Just a fun fact: we have 10 people watching this right now, and we've already had 6 shares. So thank you for who's sharing this video. We definitely want to increase our outreach as far as we possibly can, reach as many people, especially on this very important topic, especially now with all the snowstorms that are going on, etc. So yeah, you've heard it from the man. This is the tower. This is Phoenix. This is the guy. So 10 degrees is the standard. So let's make sure. Now, is that a hard line, Nick? Like, what if it's 11 degrees Fahrenheit? Like, is that like no bueno? Like, you got to run it, or you got to not run it, etc. Or is that like a best practice?
The drivers know what they're doing. They know when they need to be running the truck and when they need to not be running the truck. Cool, if it's 15 degrees and you're in Wyoming and it's windy outside and wind chill is -20 or whatever it could be, just idle the truck. but
It's the best practice. Okay, got it.
yeah,
And
the drivers know what they need to be doing.
because I would have been that guy. I would have been like, it's 11. You can't
It's 11,
idle
I'm
the
not
truck.
running,
Yeah.
and then you end up with gelled fuel.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Mhm.
We would much rather be chewed out for idling than being chewed out for having to get on road involved. If that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
I said that on the call yesterday, that it's cheaper to burn a few gallons of fuel to idle than it is to get on road involved and send out road service to get you fixed.
I kind of feel bad now because I did that for one of my drivers. I did it. So I probably will call him back and be like, you were right.
Yeah,
All right.
there's no hard line there. Just
Yeah, it's a best practice.
You're right.
Okay, well, Lupe, you got any final comments as we start to wrap this up? Anything that we might have missed, etc.?
To be honest, the best decision, the ultimate decision comes directly to the driver in the situation you're in, regardless of what state you're in. Obviously, a lot of drivers want to go down to Florida or South Texas where it's nice and warm and you don't run the engine and stuff overnight. But common sense, and at the same time, being familiar with your surroundings, being familiar with the weather situation you're in can help with the idle, but at the same time, just unplug what is unnecessary, and that will help with the battery. And at the same time, making sure that that bunk heater is nice and working, because if it doesn't work, you better have enough blankets and enough winter clothes to keep you comfortable, because nobody wants to sleep in an ice box. And so just make sure that the bunk heaters are working properly, make sure the batteries are working, unplug what you don't need to plug in if necessary, and be familiar with the weather situation in wherever you are located.
Oh my God, just nuggets, just falling from the sky. Let me go get a bucket to collect all of it.
That was beautiful.
Beautiful. Nick, anything you'd like to add?
Nope, Lupe's hit the nail on the head.
Nail on the head. Perfect. Well, coming to you live from Edwardsville Nation. If you like what you saw today, if you like to see something else, a comment, an idea for the next Ed Talk Live here in Edwardsville Nation, I'm going to say thank you so much, Nick and Lupe, for joining us as I play our theme song and ride off into the sunset. Once again, live from Edwardsville Nation. All right, signing off. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a great day and be safe.
Thank you, Lupe.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Alex.
All right, see you guys.
All right, we are done. We are off the recording.